My name's Gigi and I'm 29 years old. My husband, Saul, and I just became new homeowners, and yeah, I know what you might be thinking. Owning a house in this economy? At that age? How did you do that? Well, I wish I could tell you that it was all a matter of hard work, but it actually was a gift that my husband's grandfather, Robbie, gave to us. But my mother-in-law, Jen, who was staying with us, had a lot to say about it, and that did not go so well for her. Before I tell you my story, I feel like it's important to give you a little backstory about my husband's family and how we came to be in a relationship. For starters, I have an awesome relationship with Saul's recently retired grandfather. Yes, grandfather. His name is Robbie. Robbie had single-handedly raised Saul's mother, Jen. His wife had died during childbirth, and he loved her too much to even find anyone else. He has admitted to Saul and me that he felt bad that Jen never got to have a mother, so he spoiled her senselessly. Robbie is a pretty wealthy man. He comes from family wealth, and he's never afraid to splurge on the people he loves. So when I say that Jen was spoiled when she was growing up, I mean it. Jen always got what she wanted, and that attitude carried on into adulthood because Robbie could never say no to her. Jen had gotten pregnant when she was 17. The father ran away because he wanted nothing to do with the child, and Jen never revealed who the father was either. Robbie was not thrilled that she got pregnant, but ultimately decided that he would stand by her regardless of whatever decision she made. When she had Saul, she cared for him for a year or so and ultimately decided that a child weighed her down too much. She left him in Robbie's care. Robbie was upset that his daughter was not following through with her responsibilities. At the same time, he was glad he got to have a second chance at raising a child. He was a little more strict with Saul. He still spoiled Saul, but not to the same extent that he had done for Jen. Saul had always considered Robbie to be his dad because he was the one who raised him. Saul's mom, Jen, had disappeared to some college somewhere and then worked someplace also for the next 10 years. And when she came back, she tried to insert herself in Saul's life as his mom. Saul didn't like it, but he didn't oppose her because he had heard of how stubborn she was with getting the things she wanted. When it came time to move to college, Saul moved out and Robbie supported him. It was at college that I met Saul. We met because we had friends in the same circles and we just clicked instantly. It didn't take long for us to start dating, and if I really recall correctly, after 6 months of dating, Saul introduced me to Robbie. Robbie and I got along really well, and I was happy that Saul had such a positive influence in his life. The one person who did not like me was, you guessed it, Jen. Now, after about a year of dating, Saul decided that we should meet his mom because he wanted to introduce me to her. I have a pretty deadly peanut allergy, so Saul informed her in advance. When we got to her place, she barely looked my way or even talked to me. The only time she did was when it was time to eat. She had this evil look in her eye that made me feel a little on edge, but I ignored it. Just as I was about to put a spoonful of food in my mouth, Saul literally leapt off his seat and knocked the spoon out of my hand. What the hell? Why'd you do that? It has peanuts in it. Jen, what were you trying to do? I told you she's allergic. Oh, come on. It's just a peanut allergy. She needs to grow up. Are you stupid? Excuse me? That's no way to talk to your mother. Apologize now. Why the hell should I? You almost killed Gigi. There's no need to make such a big deal about this. It's a tiny allergy, right, Gigi? Actually, no. I almost did die on multiple occasions just from cross-contamination. Ugh, what a child. Dad, tell Saul to apologize to me for disrespectfully talking to me. Absolutely not. Saul asked you not to do one thing, and that's exactly what you did. To top it off, you're still ignoring the fact that you could have killed the girl. Why did you do that? You want to know? Fine. I don't like her. But you don't even know her. Yeah, but she's taking my son away from me and I don't like that. So, why don't you and Gigi head out? Here's some cash. Go get yourself some good non-deathly lunch. I'll speak to Jen. I was shaken up. Never in my life had anyone wanted to outright kill me. And to hear Jen say that she didn't like me just like that? Wow, that hurt. Sol was furious at Jen, and once he cooled down, he apologized to me over and over again. Of course, I didn't need him to apologize to me because he did nothing wrong. Still, after that, two things happened. First, Sol stopped speaking to her. He cut off all contact with her. Second, Robbie cut off financial support for Jen. He kicked her out of his house and told her to live by herself. I was sure that only would have made her hate me more, but I realized that I wouldn't have to see her again until absolutely necessary, so I didn't mind. After that, life went back to normal for Sol and me. Once a month, we would go out to either lunch or dinner with Robbie, and that was about all the contact we had with Sol's family. Sol and I knew that we were the ones for each other, yet we decided to wait until we were both financially stable enough to get married. When we finally got engaged, we waited for another 1.5 years to plan out our details of our wedding. When it came time to send out invites, we debated sending one to Jen, but in the end, we still sent her one. I will admit we were glad to see that she hadn't RSVP'd us. I guess Jen hated me way too much to attend her own son's wedding. Anyway, it was still a grand time for Sol and I. Robbie had been too busy traveling around the world to attend our wedding. We didn't mind that because honestly, that man deserved it. He worked super hard all his life and he raised not only his daughter but his grandson too. When he finally came back, he told us that he had a surprise for us. Sol and I were excited because we were expecting Robbie to give us some souvenirs or even some snacks or candies from the countries he visited. Robbie told us to come over to his place for dinner one night. Dinner with Robbie is always a good time. He told us all about his little adventures on his trip. Sol and I were a mess of tears from laughing too hard. Finally, after dinner, Robbie decided to reveal his surprise to us. He placed a pair of keys in front of Sol and I. We looked at him in confusion. "What's this about, Papa?" "These are the keys to your new house." "What? Are you being serious?" "As serious as a heart attack." But why?" "I wasn't able to attend your wedding, and I didn't give you a wedding gift either." "So you bought us a house?" "I couldn't think of a better gift. Am I wrong?" "No, although I will say you are one unhinged man." "Ha, that's the truth." "Thanks a lot, Papa." "Of course, although there is one small hiccup." "What is it?" "Well, Jen has been running low on finances and she reached out to me about helping her out. I told her I'd put up with her one last time, but if she does or says anything out of line, she's going to get thrown out." "Oh, so I'll have to meet Mom?" "Yeah, and put up with her for another 3 months." "Uh-oh." "I know, it's not the most ideal, but she'll stay with you guys for a little while. She promised me she'll be on her best behavior, so I don't think there'll be too much to worry about." "All right, that's doable." Robbie had done us a huge favor by buying us a house. We could use the money we usually spend on rent to save up even more. So it felt really wrong to tell him that we wouldn't want Jen staying with us. I sensed how skeptical Sol was too, and it made me feel better that I wasn't the only one who wasn't feeling too good about the arrangement. Robbie went on to explain to us that he was going to be visiting a friend for a while next month and that he had allowed his other friend's son to stay at his place until he came back, which was why he couldn't put Jen up himself. Which was fair, but still, Sol and I decided to move in as soon as possible because we wanted to at least have some time in our new house before Jen came over. Robbie also was there with us while we moved in. He helped us settle in and as best he could. He let us get used to our new place for a week before telling us that Jen was going to move in the day after the next. I was queasy with nerves. The last time I saw Jen, she tried to give me an anaphylactic shock. I did not want to live with her. It would be exhausting to constantly be on guard in my own home. But I guess it was one small price to pay for a beautiful house that was our own. Robbie was with us when Jen brought all her stuff with her. We planned to have dinner together, so I spent most of the day just cooking and preparing. It was a great way to expend my nervous energy. Jen happily greeted Sol and asked him a bunch of questions about himself while she just ignored me altogether. When we walked into the house, Jen looked around for a while before deciding to talk. What a house! I know, right? Which one of you earns more money? Gigi. Why does that matter? First of all, that's embarrassing. You need to earn more than her. Secondly, this is an ugly house. Excuse me? Mom, that's unnecessary. I can see that you guys really struggled to buy this place. It really is the ugliest place I've stepped foot in. That's really rude to say, especially when you'll be living here because we let you. I know, it's a shame that this is where I have to live until I move. You're being very hypocritical. At least we were able to afford a house. You can't even afford to rent a place. You only talk back this way to me because of your wife. If it wasn't for her, you'd have been worshipping the ground I walked on. There's something seriously wrong with you. Okay, that's enough. Let's just get on with dinner. Robbie must not have told Jen that he was the one who bought the house for us. When Jen called the house ugly, I saw Robbie's expression harden, and then she went on to say a lot more stuff, and Robbie looked like he was ready to throw her out. I have to admit that Jen calling our new house ugly hurt. The funniest part was that Sol was the one who was in charge of the interior decorating, and he did a fantastic job at it. If she had known that, I doubt she would have said any of the things that she said. And to hear her insult me again was no fun either. It was kind of sad that I was prepared for it, though. She constantly mocked me and insulted me because she always thought that I had taken her son away from her. But I guess she just never realized that her son was avoiding her for the longest time. He just started speaking up because her actions and words began to affect me. Dinner was awkward. Sol and Robbie seemed majorly ticked off from the previous interaction with Jen. And Jen did not seem to pick up on the vibes because she went on to keep trash-talking the house. At some point, though, it just got so funny to me. The fact that she didn't know anything and here she was openly slamming her father and her son. After dinner, Jen told us that she was jet-lagged, which is very funny because she literally flew over from one state over where there's no difference in time zone, and retreated to her room. At that point, Robbie, Sol, and I made our way over to the den where we discussed what had just happened. Well, that was terrible. I swear, if she wasn't my mother, I would have had some very choice words to say. Did you not tell her that you bought this house for us, Robbie? I didn't see why I had to, but I guess that worked in my favor because I got to see if she was going to be any different, which she won't. It's going to be rough living with her. But it'll be okay. It's only another 3 months. She'll be out of our hair before you know it. Hell no, I'm not letting you guys live with a monster like that. The only reason I made this arrangement was because she begged me for a whole month to help her out and promised me over and over again that she had changed. I see no change in her, and I don't want to help her out anymore. Oh, wow. So are you just going to kick her out? Yeah, I don't think it would be that easy. Remember the tantrum she threw when you cut her off financially before? She will not leave this house that easily. I think that issue can be solved pretty easily. We'll just change all the locks in the house so she won't be able to get back in. But she doesn't have her set of keys yet? I've got them right here. Just give them to her tomorrow morning before you guys head to work. I know she'll want to go out and meet some friends. When she gets back, she'll be stuck outside till you come back. That should teach her a lesson." It was nice to have Robbie side with us. If there was one thing that Robbie absolutely hated, it was being ungrateful. That was literally Jen's entire personality. Robbie had tried his hardest to discipline that out of her, but she just never seemed to learn. The next day, I took a day off so I could be there to watch over the locks getting changed. I pretended that I was going out to work in the morning and handed Jen her set of keys. She smirked at me and asked me if I was happy that she would be staying with me. I told her that she was family, so I was more than happy to be able to help her out. She then told me that she was going to make my life hell, and that if I had the audacity to complain to her father about her behavior, she would get in the way of my marriage. I was so close to telling her about the plan because Jen really knew how to get on people's nerves, but I kept my mouth shut and just let Jen say what she wanted to. In the end, I knew that I would be the one who won. I left the house that morning and just drove around for a while. I kept checking and reviewing our security footage to see if Jen left, and about 2 hours after I left the house, she stepped out. I wasn't sure about how long she'd be out, so I contacted the number Robbie had given me and asked the person to get to my place as quickly as possible. I raced home too. By the time I got back home, the person who was going to change the locks was also there. While he busied himself with the locks, I got to packing Jen's stuff. She spent the entire night unpacking her things, but it still took a fairly short amount of time to repack everything. I set her bags outside the main door and along with them attached a copy of the house deed which outlined in it the owner of the house and the buyer of the house. While Saul and I were listed as owners, Robbie was listed as the buyer. Once the man was done changing the locks, he handed me the new keys and left. I quickly got out of the house and drove to a nearby cafe where I kept a keen eye on the security footage. I couldn't wait to see Jen's reaction to everything. It took about another 2 hours for Jen to return. She saw her bags out front and looked around in confusion. She tried to open the door, but that didn't work. She began to get frustrated as she kept trying to unlock the door. When her frustration reached its peak, she began kicking the door. I didn't know what she thought she would accomplish, but it sure was funny as hell to watch her struggle. Eventually, she gave up and sat on the bench outside the door. She looked at her bags and finally saw the note attached to it. The security footage was grainy, but I swear I could see her eyes widen as she understood what the paper said. She looked around as if to see if someone might come out and talk to her, but there was no one. She went and sat back down on the bench and put her head in her hands. She looked like a woman that had lost it all. She picked up her phone and called Robbie, but he never picked up her calls again. She tried Saul, and finally she tried me. I debated picking up the call, but eventually my curiosity got the better of me and I picked it up. "Hey Jen, is everything okay?" "Don't play stupid. You know what you did." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "You tricked me." "I'm really going to need you to start making sense here. I have to get back to work." "You knew that my father bought the house. Yet you never told me about it. You just watched as I said what I said while my father was right there." "Why did you even have to say those things? Even if you thought that I bought the house, shouldn't you have been grateful that I was opening my house to you?" "Shut up. My son would have made sure that I stayed with you." "I don't know what kind of warped perception you have about Saul, but I can assure you he was even less thrilled about you staying with us than me. If anything, he was the one who was ready to throw you out first." "I don't care about that. I'm homeless now, and you have to fix it." "Robbie did his best to provide for you. You bit the hand that fed you, and now you have to face the consequences. I will make sure you regret doing this to me." "If you keep that attitude up, you're not going to get anywhere. Goodbye." It felt so good to finally be able to tell Jen what was on my mind. The woman had it coming for her. She wouldn't have to be a part of our lives anymore, and I was beyond happy about that. Thankfully, Jen left our house without much of a fuss. When Robbie and Saul came over later on in the evening, I replayed the footage back to them and told them about my call with Jen. We shared a hearty laugh together, although Robbie did tell us that he was really disappointed in the way that Jen turned out. I did feel Robbie's pain. I mean, I wouldn't know how to react if my child turned out anything like Jen. But I was also happy that Robbie had set his foot down on Jen. There was only one way to teach spoiled brats a lesson, and that was to take away their privileges. It will be a tough road for Jen, but hopefully she'll learn her lesson, and in time, Saul and I could actually have a decent relationship with her. It's been about 6 months since all of this has happened, and Saul and I are living very happily in our new house. We've been saving up a lot of money, and we're planning on starting a family soon. Robbie is having the time of his life, traveling to various places, and we're happy that he's managed to occupy his time well. Although, whenever he is in town, he makes sure to stay with us, and like always, those times are amazing. If there's one thing I've learned throughout all of this, it was to learn from Robbie's mistakes. I don't want a child like Jen, and I will make sure that my child is raised to be a decent human being. Thanks for listening. I'm Daphne, and I'm a 32-year-old woman. All right, let me tell you about my life and how I managed to stay true to myself despite the constant criticisms from my ex-husband, Theory, and my mother-in-law, Susan. So I'm a woman who's proud of her career in pottery projects. It's not the typical 9-to-5 job, but it's my passion, and I absolutely love what I do. Sure, I might not be rolling in money like some of my friends, but I've achieved success in my niche area, and that's what matters to me. Theory and Susan, on the other hand, have never really understood my work. They thought it was childish and not a real job, whatever that means. It was disheartening to hear them make snide comments about my passion, but I refused to let it get to me. You see, pottery projects were more than just a job to me. It was a form of art, a way to express myself, and I took pride in creating unique pieces. But Theory and Susan didn't seem to see it that way. They thought I should be doing something more professional and respectable. It didn't help that Susan, due to her physical disability, had to live with us. I tried my best to be understanding and accommodating, but it was hard when she kept judging my choices and making me feel inadequate. Theory, my husband, wasn't much better. He would often bring up the fact that my friends were all high-earning professionals while I was just playing around with clay. It hurt to hear him belittle my passion like that. You know, I was talking to some of my friends the other day, and they were talking about their wives and their careers. Oh, yeah? What were they saying? Well, you know, most of their wives have these high-paying jobs and successful careers. It's got me thinking about us. What do you mean? I mean, compared to them, your career is a bit, well, odd. You know, working with pottery and all that, it's not exactly the typical high-paying job. Are you saying that my job is less valuable just because it doesn't make as much money? No, that's not what I meant. I just meant that, you know, it's a bit embarrassing sometimes when people ask what you do, and I have to tell them you're a potter. Embarrassing? You're embarrassed by my passion and my hard work? No, it's not like that. I'm proud of you and what you've achieved. It's just that sometimes I wish you had a more conventional job, you know. So you're saying that you'd rather I give up my passion and do something I don't love just to fit into your idea of a perfect wife. I just wish people would see how amazing you are and not judge you based on your job. But you're the one judging me, Theory. You're the one who's embarrassed by my career. I guess I just wish people would see it the way I do. It was a lame excuse for an apology or trying to be supportive, as he was claiming, but stupidly at the time, I let it slide. I regret doing that because later on, I learned how he felt about it. One evening, I had just finished working on a particularly intricate pottery piece when I overheard Theory and Susan talking in the living room. Their voices were hushed, but I could still make out what they were saying. Fairy chuckled and said, "Can you believe she spends all day playing with clay? I mean, come on, that's not a real job." Susan joined in and said, "I know, right? It's like she's stuck in some child's playtime while the rest of us are out there making a real living." Their words stung and I felt my heart sink. I knew they didn't understand my passion, but to hear them belittle my job behind my back hurt more than I expected. I took a deep breath and decided to confront them. Walking into the living room, I put on a brave face and said, "Hey, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I just want to remind you that pottery projects are my career, and it means a lot to me. It might not be the traditional 9 to 5, but it's what I love doing." Fairy looked taken aback, and Susan tried to backpedal. "Oh, sweetie, we didn't mean to offend you. It's just that we worry about your future and financial security." I shook my head, trying to stay composed. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing well in my field. My work is gaining recognition, and I'm proud of my accomplishments. I wish you could see that." Fairy seemed uncomfortable when he said, "Look, Daphne, we just want what's best for you. We're not trying to put you down, but we worry about the stability of your job." I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and hurt. "I understand that, but it's my passion and I'm willing to take the risks. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I won't let your doubts hold me back." "We're just looking out for you, dear. It's not that we don't support you, but we want to see you thrive in a more traditional career." I appreciated their concern, but it was clear that they didn't truly understand my passion. Instead of arguing further, I decided to let my success speak for itself. In the following months, as my pottery projects gained more recognition and I received invitations to showcase my work in art exhibitions, I noticed a change in Fairy and Susan's attitudes. They began to acknowledge my talent, though their support still felt hesitant. I knew I couldn't change their views entirely, but I hoped that with time they would come to understand and respect my career choice. But you know what? I didn't let their negativity deter me. I loved my job, and that was all that mattered. I knew I was good at what I did, and I had the respect of my colleagues and clients. That's all the validation I needed. Whenever they made snarky comments, I would just smile and shrug it off. I knew they didn't understand my passion, and that was fine. I didn't need their approval to be happy. And you know what's even more amazing? My pottery project started gaining more recognition. I started getting featured in magazines and art exhibitions. My unique style and authentic approach to my work were finally getting the attention they deserved. Of course, Fairy and Susan couldn't ignore the success forever. They might not have fully appreciated my work, but they couldn't deny that it was bringing in money. And that seemed to be the only thing that made them somewhat okay with my career choice. As the years went by, I continued to excel in my field. I learned to tune out their negative comments and focus on what truly mattered, my passion and happiness. It wasn't always easy, but I was determined to stay true to myself. I had my ups and downs, but my dedication and hard work paid off. I was able to carve a niche for myself in the pottery world, and I couldn't have been prouder. Well, guess what, folks? All of my hard work and dedication paid off. Oh man, let me tell you what happened next. So after all of that hard work and finally getting a major investor interested in my pottery, I was over the moon. The investor told me he'd pay me $3,000 a week for my work, and I was thrilled. I mean, that's some serious cash. I couldn't wait to share the news with Fairy and Susan. I thought they'd be proud of me and finally see the value in what I do. So when I got home, I was practically bursting with excitement. But as soon as I mentioned the $3,000, they cut me off right away. Hey guys, you won't believe what happened today. I got a big break in my pottery career. I was telling you all about it, remember? Oh, right, that investor guy. What happened? Well, he said he'd pay me $3,000. $3,000? That can't be right. No, let me finish. He said he'd pay $3,000. Huh, 3,000 as a salary is a joke, Daphne. How ridiculous. No, it's not a joke. Pottery is my passion, and this investor sees the value in my art. It's a real opportunity for me, and besides, it's not what you're thinking. A real opportunity? Come on, Daphne. This is ridiculous. You need to be realistic. You'll never make it big with pottery. These two were getting on my nerves, trying to speak over me and diminish my accomplishments. For some reason, they just didn't want to hear me when I wanted to tell them that I'd be making $3,000 per week. They kept cutting me off. But now that I had ground their gears, I wanted to hear how they felt. They assumed it was my monthly or yearly salary or something, and boy, were they not impressed. They started shouting at me, telling me that my job was stupid and useless. Can you believe that? It was like a punch to the gut. It's not about making it big or being rich. I love what I do. And this offer means I can sustain myself doing what I'm passionate about. Sustain yourself? You're 32, Daphne. It's time to grow up and get a real job, not some childish pottery nonsense. It's not childish nonsense. Pottery is a legitimate career, and I've worked hard to get to where I am. Why can't you just support me? Because we know better, Daphne. You're wasting your time and talent on something that will never work out. You don't understand. This is my passion, my dream. I thought you both would be happy for me, but all you do is belittle my work. Your work will never be enough. You should have focused on something more practical and profitable. This is my life, and I won't let you two dictate what I should do. I'm proud of my career, and I won't let your negativity bring me down. Well, good luck with your little pottery fantasy, but don't come crying to us when it all falls apart. They went on about how they had to be honest about where our relationship stands now that I wasn't making the big bucks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All this time, they never really appreciated the hard work I put in, or how much I loved what I did. I felt so unappreciated and hurt. It's not like I was trying to be rich or anything. I just wanted them to understand and support me, but instead, they were just focused on the money and couldn't see the passion and fulfillment my work brought me. Then, they said something that I would never forget. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fiery and Susan were telling me that they didn't care about our relationship anymore because I might not make as much money as they expected. It was like they were putting a price tag on our marriage. Look, Daphne, we've been thinking about this for a while now. If you're not going to be making the money we thought, then there's no real reason for us to stay together. That's right. We can't be associated with someone who's going to be struggling financially. It's just not acceptable. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. Are you serious? You want a divorce just because of money? It's not just about money, but it's a big part of it. I mean, I've been wanting a divorce for a while, but I thought your income would at least make things easier for me financially. I can't believe you're doing this. I thought we had a real connection, a real relationship. Well, relationships change, Daphne, and if you can't provide the lifestyle we want, then there's no point in staying together. So, it was all about money for you two? You never really cared about me, just what I could bring to the table? I mean, it's not the only factor, but it's a significant one. I can't believe I married someone who values money more than love and connection. I'm disgusted. Love doesn't pay the bills, Daphne. You'll understand that one day. Well, I'd rather have love and passion for my work than a marriage based on materialism and greed. Fine, have it your way. I'll file for divorce and we can all move on with our lives. Good riddance, Brokey. As Fiery and Susan left the room, I felt a mix of emotions. I was hurt, angry, heartbroken. But I also felt a sense of relief. I realized that I deserved better than to be with someone who only cared about money and didn't appreciate me for who I truly was. It was time for me to focus on my career and my passion and surround myself with people who truly valued and supported me. As painful as it was, this divorce was a chance for me to embrace my authentic self and find happiness on my own terms. After I left the house, I had a mix of emotions: hurt, anger, and relief. Fiery and Susan seemed kind of embarrassed and guilty for how they treated me, but it was too late to take back their words. The damage was done, and I was ready to move on. I called up my lawyer friend right away to speed up the divorce process. I wanted to be free from Fiery and his toxic mom ASAP. Luckily, we both agreed on a mutual divorce with no alimony involved. Fiery and Susan were surprised and laughed, thinking I'd be homeless without their money, but I reassured them that I'd be just fine. So we all sat down in that lawyer's office ready to sign the divorce papers. Fiery and Susan looked so darn pleased with themselves, like they were finally getting rid of the crazy me. Well, I wasn't going to let their smugness get to me, especially since I had a lovely surprise for them once I'd finished signing the papers. When I finished signing, they jumped for joy, saying they were free from my antics. Finally, we're done with all this stupid drama. Free at last. Oh, thank goodness, no more dealing with her and her weird pottery stuff. You know, you both seem really happy about this divorce. Well, wouldn't you be? Now we can move on with our lives without your eccentricities. Well, I guess the feeling is mutual. Oh, please don't try and act like you don't need us, especially now that you're broke. Oh, trust me, I'm more than happy to be rid of you two clowns. Clowns? How rude. Rude? Maybe, but I don't mind being rude to people who are beneath me. Beneath you? What? Are you stupid and deaf? Okay, enlighten us then. Well, for starters, I've got some pretty exciting news. You see, that night when I told you I'd be making $3,000, you didn't let me finish my sentence. I'll be making $3,000 per week. Fiery and Susan's jaws practically hit the floor. Their faces went pale as they realized the mistake they'd made. The kind of money I'd be making could afford me a whole new life and easily cover Susan's medical expenses. Talk about a mic drop moment. I couldn't help but savor the shock on their faces. It felt so darn good to turn the tables on them. I was finally free from their toxic attitudes and the constant belittling of my passion. Wait, $3,000 a week? Are you serious? Yep, dead serious. But we thought you were going to be poor without us. Yeah, you both seem to have a habit of underestimating me. I didn't mean, it's just that pottery, it's not a stable career. Pottery is my passion, and I've turned it into a successful business. Guess you missed that part. We didn't realize. Yeah, you didn't realize. You never took the time to understand or appreciate my work. You were too busy belittling it. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought... You thought wrong. You both thought wrong about a lot of things. Daphne, we didn't know. We were just worried. Worried? You were worried that your precious image would be tarnished by having a wife with a strange career. Well, guess what? You lost more than just a wife and a daughter-in-law today. Good luck paying all those medical bills without me. Daphne, Save it. It's too late now. I've moved on, and I'm happier without you both in my life. Both of you are pathetic. God damn it. Fiery and Susan exchanged glances, looking regretful for their actions, but I had already made up my mind. Even if I changed it, the divorce papers were already signed. That was the sweet part of this all. Both Fiery and Susan had to just accept the fact that they threw a good woman away. I stood up, ready to face my new life without them. Susan made a sad attempt at crying. I guess she was trying to gain sympathy. It was actually quite hilarious. That's when I couldn't help but laugh right in their faces, fascinated at how cruelty can lead to downright stupidity. As I walked out of that office, I held my head high, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I was ready to embrace my new life, one where I wouldn't be dragged down by their negativity. And you know what? Life without Fiery and Susan turned out to be pretty damned amazing. I focused on my pottery work, pouring my heart and soul into it, and you know what they say? Do what you love and the money will follow. Well, it sure did for me. My pottery project started gaining traction and I started getting more and more clients. That $3,000 per week turned out to be just the beginning. I was earning even more than that and I was damn proud of it. I moved into a cozy little apartment and I finally felt at peace. I surrounded myself with supportive friends who appreciated my work and encouraged me to keep going. Meanwhile, Fiery and Susan were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. I heard through the grapevine that Fiery's finances took a hit because he squandered it on some shifty business deals. I guess he was trying to get rich quickly and it didn't pay off. The sad part was that Susan was struggling with her medical bills. Part of me wanted to feel some satisfaction in their misfortune, but I realized that I had moved on from all that drama. I was too busy building my own happiness to waste any more energy on them. So the moral of the story is, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone's career doesn't fit your idea of success doesn't mean they aren't making bank. And sometimes the people who look down on you end up eating their words. Life is too short to be weighed down by toxic people. Find your passion, embrace it, and surround yourself with those who uplift and support you. Trust me, it's a recipe for happiness and success. Hello, my name is Perry and I'm 28 years old. This event actually has this huge backstory behind it. I come from a complicated family, to say the least, but this incident will revolve around my pathetic excuse of a father, and I'm only speaking about this because I need to rant about everything that happened somewhere. My dad had married my mom when they were only 19. You see, my mom got pregnant with me then. They were supposed to be a casual fling only, but well, that couldn't happen anymore. My dad had initially wanted to leave, but his parents threatened to cut him off if he abandoned his child. So you can imagine the mindset with which my dad was entering into parenthood. My mom came from a religious family, so they got married pretty quickly. When I was born, my dad was barely around. All of my earliest memories were with my mom itself. I remember hearing them fight a lot. Mom would always be crying while my dad yelled at her. He used to tell her that he was miserable all because of her. I remember not liking him for a long while. Even though there was a lot of negativity in my house, my mom made sure to shield me from it all to the best of her abilities. My mom was diagnosed with late-stage cancer when I was 6, and she was gone within a year. Of course, I was devastated. I would cry and scream for her, and that only seemed to get my dad even angrier. He never fully abandoned me, but I was almost always at my grandparents' place. A year after my mom passed away, Dad got married to my stepmom, Stacy. Stacy had 3 children of her own. Around the same time, Dad's business had started to take off. He was making enough money to buy a mansion-sized house for all of us to live in. But all of that meant nothing much to me because it was all just hell. Stacy hated me. She actively tried to make my life hell. She always insisted that I call her mom, even though I told her that she was never going to be my mom. Dad also took her side, and I was often grounded for weeks because I refused to call her mom. I remember one time Dad and Stacy cornered me when I was 13 years old and asked me to let Stacy adopt me. Perry, we have something important to discuss with you. I want to adopt you as my child too. No, I told you, you're not my mom, and you won't ever be. I do not remember saying that I'm asking you. That's unfair. You barely gave me time to process Mom's death to begin with. You brought a whole new woman into my life and you expected me to call her Mom from the start? I don't want another mom. I had the best one. Get over it, Perry. It happened years ago. What was so perfect about your stupid mother anyway? All she did was make my life miserable. At least she was there for me. All you ever did was make her cry. Perry, this is no way to speak to your father. Whatever. I'm going to my room. Things only got worse from there. Dad stopped looking my way entirely. He refused to have a conversation with me unless it was to yell at me for something Stacy or her kids complained about. I tried to have at least some form of a relationship with him, but he made it explicitly clear that he disliked me. And Stacy didn't make things better for me. She kept telling me that I was the black sheep of the family because I refused to let go of my mom. She told me that I was a painful reminder of her to my dad, and that if I just gave in, my life would be easier. Of course, I never listened to a word of what she said. When both of them realized what they wanted was never going to happen, they resorted to ignoring everything regarding me. I was left alone to fend for myself. By this time, I was around 14. I was given a monthly allowance to survive on, and that was about it. I wanted to run away from home, but my grandparents on both sides had passed away, and I had no contact with any other family member. While I struggled, my step-siblings lived lavish lives. There was not a thing they didn't get, regardless of whether they asked for it or not. They had all the latest gadgets and all the best things in life. They went to these expensive private schools and had an allowance that was at least 3 times more than mine. This only made me angrier because these kids were younger than me. What had I done that was so wrong? I was still my father's daughter. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't even engage me. He would walk past me like I didn't exist. Meanwhile, Stacy would smirk at me and offer fake sympathy. When I turned 16, my monthly allowance stopped. I was told to get a job and sustain myself that way. Of course, I was exhausted every single day. Juggling school and work was tiring, but no one really cared. The only solace I had was my best friend and the thought that once I turned 18, I would have access to the trust fund my mom set up for me. My mom came from a pretty wealthy family. As soon as she found out she was pregnant, she set up a trust fund in my name. When my grandparents passed away, my inheritance was put into the trust fund. Would I have liked the money at that point itself? Yeah, but life was not going to be easy that way. I think my breaking point was when I was 17. I had already been supporting myself because my dad spent everything he earned on his stepkids. I had begun to find money missing from my wallet. Initially, it was only small amounts, but then it started to get bigger. Of course, I freaked out, but I couldn't really point fingers at anyone because I had no proof of anything. Of course, I didn't rule out the possibility that I was misplacing my money. So I started saving all my bills and keeping accounts of every purchase I made. When I still found money disappearing, I decided to keep all my money in my account itself. I figured it would be tiring to keep having to withdraw money whenever I needed cash, but as long as I wasn't losing money, it didn't matter. And then the money started disappearing from my account. I was furious. I knew for sure that I wasn't the one who was spending it. I went through my transactions online and found out that money had been transferred from my account to my stepsister's account. I saw red at that point. I confronted my stepmom about it because I knew that talking to my stepsister would do nothing. Your daughter has been stealing money from me. You better put her in her place. Stealing? Oh, honey, I doubt that she would steal from you. Well, look here. These are my bank statements, and they clearly show that money has been sent from my account to hers. Maybe you sent her the money because she asked you to? I know I didn't. She never even asked me. Look, why don't you just put this behind you, yeah? She's your sister after all. She must have needed a little money. How can I put this behind me? I'm the one responsible for myself. There's never enough money for my needs. So when your daughter steals from me, how do I continue to survive? Stop being dramatic. All she took was $40. She didn't only take $40. She's been stealing from me for months now. I've been struggling for a while now, but none of you guys seem to care. You know what? I'll stop being dramatic when you pay me back the $300 she took from me. How could you be so selfish? It's your sister. She's not. Even if she was, any reasonable parent would have reimbursed what she took from me. Oh, so you think I'm being unreasonable? Yes, obviously. Wait till your dad hears about this. I groaned because I knew where that was going to go. But at that point, I had given up hope. I knew that whatever my dad heard from his lovely wife was going to trump everything I said. I knew at that moment that I couldn't go on living that way. I began packing all my things while I waited for my dad to come back home from work. The only reason I didn't leave immediately was because I had hoped that he would listen to me. I wanted to give him one last chance. But since there was a large possibility that he would ignore everything I said, I made arrangements for my stay at my best friend's place. Her parents were more than happy to help me out. I only had a few more months until I turned 18. Once I turned 18, I would have been able to get my own place. I had enough saved up for at least a small deposit, and my best friend's parents also offered to help, so I knew that everything would turn out all right for me regardless of what my dad said. That evening, I heard my dad walk into the house and I heard Stacy talking to him. While she was talking to him, my stepsister, who had been the one who was stealing from me, peeked into my room and smirked at me. She told me that I had made a big mistake by telling her mom about what she had been doing. She planned to make my life hell, so she wished me all the luck in the world. She left before I could get a single word out. I knew then and there that I wanted to get out for sure. There was no way that I was going to be staying in that house anymore because no one, and I mean no one, would listen to anything I said. My dad would never even raise his voice against his stepkids, and Stacy thinks they're just little angels. Just as I was about to get ready to leave, I heard my dad angrily walking up the stairs. I quickly stuffed away my packed things under my bed and sat on my bed while trying to look like I was simply reading a book. My heart raced with anxiety as I waited for my dad to come in and start yelling at me. You called your mom unreasonable, Perry? That is beyond disrespectful. Did she tell you why I called her unreasonable? Just because one of your sisters took some money from you isn't a good enough reason. She didn't take money from me. She stole it from me. Oh, wow. So first you're disrespectful to your mom, and now you're just outright lying to me. I'm not lying. I have proof. I don't care. That proof is probably fake anyway. You'll really do anything so you can get attention, won't you? Why would I purposely lose money to get attention? So you can get money from us, obviously. Why do I have to get money from you, when as your daughter it's your duty to provide for me? Don't backtalk me. You're grounded for a month. But not a single word. You're such a disappointment. With that went my plan of running away. Well, at least for a month. My dad walked out of my room with my laptop and my phone. I had no other option but to wait until I was not grounded anymore. Of course, I felt super sad and angry. I was upset that my dad had always chosen his other family over me. At that moment, I wished that I had my mom more than anything. I spent the next few days just crying. That month was hell for me. My stepsister kept up with her word and actually made my life hell. She kept pulling these pranks on me that always involved me getting hurt or embarrassed in some way. Like she once added Nair to my shampoo, and thankfully I figured something was off with the way she was insistent on me washing my hair that day. Another time she spilled oil on the kitchen floor and screamed, knowing that I would rush to her. I ended up slipping and falling pretty hard. She never got scolded because they were always just pranks. If anything, that got laughs from my dad and Stacy. They always applauded her for her genius pranks. By the end of the month, I was so ready to leave the place behind me. I couldn't even call that place home because I only ever felt uncomfortable there. On the day that I got my phone and laptop back, I waited until everyone in the house fell asleep to text my best friend. She came and picked me up. I managed to sneak out of the house without making a single sound, and in that moment, I had never felt freer and more excited for the future. From then on, my life only took a turn for the better. My best friend's parents gave me a room in their house and treated me like I was their own child. My money was mine to keep because they took care of my every need. I was truly blessed to have such kind people in my life. As soon as I turned 18, I was given access to the trust fund my mom had set up for me. It had more than enough money to get me through college and take care of me for a little while after I graduated as well. I got into my dream college and I moved states to attend it. I was a stellar student and I worked on the side too. I knew that I had more than enough money to live well, but I didn't want to solely depend on the trust fund. I worked at a local coffee shop to live well. I was able to rent a small apartment and I finally felt free and alive. I barely heard anything from my dad. I got one text from him asking me where I was the morning after I left. I simply told him I was safe and that was the end of all conversation between him and me. Yeah, it hurt like crazy that he never bothered to check on how I was doing. I still followed him on social media and I saw pictures of all the places he and his family went to every other month or so. For a while, I even wondered if I was the one who had been holding them back for so long. Was I the one making them unhappy? But then, the more I thought about it, the more I realized how messed up it was that my dad blatantly ignored me constantly. It was messed up how he would treat his family better than me while I lived with him. I knew I couldn't stay silent like that for too long. I knew that I wanted to get back at him in whatever little way I could. I got a bunch of my friends to leave negative reviews on my dad's products on every site possible. My dad worked as an app developer and in general with data development. I knew just how important reviews were for his business. Anyway, over my college years, I managed to make a lot of friends and acquaintances. Each one of them negatively rated my dad's stuff for a while using different accounts. Eventually, though, I forgot about it. I guess I felt like I had done enough damage as it was. Not to mention, I wasn't seeing any actual results and it felt like I was just hating into a void, so I let it go. About 6 years after I moved out, I was in a much better place. I had a well-paying job after graduating from university with honors. I was able to rent a better place and even managed to get myself into a good relationship. I was living a great life. And then my dad turned up at my door. It was a regular weekend when I heard a knock at the door. I went to check the security camera and I was shocked to see my dad standing there waiting to be buzzed in. I contemplated letting him in. On one hand, I wanted nothing to do with him any longer. On the other hand, I was way too curious to find out why he suddenly wanted to meet. I decided to let him in. "Hey, honey." "Honey? What's with this sudden sweetness?" "Sudden? I've always been this way with you." "Oh, just cut it out already." "Why are you always so mean? This is why I could never bond with you." "You can't be serious. You went 5 years without talking to me because I'm mean? If that's what you've come to talk to me about, you can leave." No, that's not it. I needed to talk to you about something really important." "Well, what is it?" "I see that you're living a very good life now. Is it all your mother's money?" "Why? Do you only think I'm capable of being successful because of my mom's money?" "Well, no, but I'm just wondering." "At least I had one parent that cared about me." "Oh, don't be like that, Perry." Just tell me what you came here to tell me. The more I listen to you talk, the angrier I get. It was true. I really did begin to feel immense amounts of rage the more he stood in my living room and talked. Somehow he did not feel remorseful at all. He was purposely saying things that he knew would irritate me. The only reason I let him stay is because I was too damn curious to find out what it was that he wanted to tell me. Dad shuffled around on his feet and looked around my apartment for a minute, so I figured he would much rather have this conversation while sitting down. I led him to the couch and brought him a glass of water. Okay, you're comfortable now. Spill. So, I'm in trouble right now. Trouble? What do you mean? My company went under. Do you mean that you've had to shut it down? Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, everything I built has just come crashing down so hard. How did it happen? I just made a bunch of terrible business decisions because I had a lot of negative reviews coming in for a long while. Those decisions only led to a loss of business. I had to close it down before I lost even more money. How's Stacy and her kids? About that, they left me. Left? Why? Weren't you like the best thing that happened to them? Apparently, they were only there for the money. Stacy left me the day my company shut down, so it was like a double kill for me. So, what are you going to do now? Well, I was thinking that since you had all your mom's money still with you, or at least a good portion of it, you should help me out. Should? Why should I do anything for you? Because you have money and I'm your dad. Well, you're not my dad. You haven't been my dad for years. As soon as you married Stacy, you stopped being my dad. How can you say that? You ignored me for years. You didn't even provide for me. You had so much money and barely any of it went towards me. You deserve everything coming your way. I didn't raise you to be so heartless. That's about the only thing you actually taught me. Get out of my house. I could tell that he was hurt by the way I was treating him. But then again, the air of importance he walked in with made me want to punch him. And for him to just demand that I fork out money and help him out was beyond anything that I had even expected him to do. Dad tried to protest, but I told him the same advice he gave me every time I came to him for help. This is your problem, not mine. This is life. Get used to it. I could see that Dad wanted to tear his hair out of his scalp in frustration, and that sight truly made me feel great. I couldn't believe that the little thing I did could have had such a large impact. I'm not even kidding when I say that I had actually forgotten about it, and even about him for a while. Seeing him again reignited all the hatred and anger I felt towards him. Disowning him as my father only made things sweeter for me. Finally, I got to do to him what he did to me for nearly all my life. Dad did end up leaving shortly after that. It took a while for me to calm down from that experience, but I managed to continue living my life normally. Dad kept trying to text and call me. He would keep switching between begging me to help him and calling me a selfish, ignorant brat who had no values. Either way, I never paid him much attention. I learned over time that he had been bumming off a few family members. He's been struggling while Stacy actually was living her life. She managed to find another man to hook up to, and my dad was very, very salty about that. His social media was filled with nothing but hate towards her. Several family members came forward and asked me to take my dad in, but I blatantly refused. I explained my situation to them, and while some of them agreed with me, most of them told me to let everything go because he was family. I reminded them that he was their family too, so they were free to help him out. Life since then has been good once again. I received a promotion and I'll be getting married next year. I know I struggled a lot, but I'm glad that I had at least one parent who looked out for me enough that I was able to finally make it in life. Hello, my name's Dee Dee and I'm a 60-year-old woman. My husband died about 5 years ago, but I'm still a working woman. I have 5 kids, 4 of which live in different states all across the country. They each have their own families, and I'm beyond blessed to have such a big family. One of my kids, Jack, still lives in our hometown. He attended the community college here, which is where he met his wife, Riley. I liked her, but I didn't think my opinion mattered either way as long as Jack was happy. The two of them got married pretty soon and then pursued further education together in their respective fields. When they got good jobs and earned enough, they decided to have a child. I was excited because that meant I had one more grandchild to spoil. But Riley was weird about me meeting my grandchild, Jason. She was very particular about when I could visit and how long. It was understandable in the first year of Jason being born, but even when he was 6, that was odd. But I let it go because every family functioned differently. Before I knew it, though, 12 years had passed. Because of the limited amount of interaction I was allowed to have with Jason, I didn't really get to develop a strong bond with him. All I did know was that we both shared a genuine love for books. So whenever I did go over, I made sure to buy him some books I knew he'd like. One day, I was at work when I got a call from Jason. Now, that was odd for various reasons, the most prominent reason being that Jason and I barely spoke outside of family gatherings. I tried my best to connect with him the way that I had done with my other grandchildren, but he seemed way too distant. "Grandma, are you free to talk?" "Yes, honey. Any time for you. Tell me, is everything okay?" No. Why are you crying? Did you get hurt? Is there anybody at home who can help you?" "Mom and Dad are here, but do you need me to call them for you?" "No, I called you because I needed your help." "My help? What could I help you with, darling?" "I need you to save me." "Jason, what are you talking about?" "Don't laugh, Grandma." "I'm sorry, honey. That was not what I was expecting you to say." "I'm not kidding. If you aren't going to help me, I'll find a different way." "No, hold on. I'm sorry for laughing. Now, why don't you explain what you meant?" "I need you to save me from my devil mother." "Devil mother? Honey, what do you mean? She's not as sweet and nice as she acts. She's really mean to me when no one's around, and she keeps... Oh no, I hear someone coming up the stairs. I have to go. Please don't tell them that I've called. Bye." I was confused and concerned. As far as I knew, Riley was one of the sweetest people I knew. How could Jason call her a devil? I didn't believe him at the time because I figured that it was just him trying to get back at Riley. After all, she probably grounded him for something he had done. As far as I knew from what both Riley and Jack had told me, Jason had been a pretty mischievous child. But I had this nagging feeling in my gut that Jason was not joking around. As I went home that day, I couldn't stop thinking about the call. It was very out of character for Jason to do that. I slept on it for a couple of days, but I still couldn't rid myself of the feeling that something was up. So I decided to make an impulse purchase and ordered a hidden camera. Of course, I felt wrong spying on my son and his family, but I justified it by telling myself that I was only doing that because Jason called me to explicitly ask for my help. If, and hopefully, there was nothing, I could just retrieve the camera. But if there was something, then I'd have to figure out what exactly needed to be done. I hoped that even if there was something happening, a long talk would solve that issue. The camera took a couple of days to arrive, and after it did, I set it up. Thankfully, this was one of those cameras that I got live footage from as well as recorded footage. I could access the footage through an app on my phone, which made it very convenient for me. Once I had set it up and figured out the technicalities of the gauge, I decided to call my son and ask him if I could come over. "Hello, sweetie. How's everything?" "Everything's great, Mom. What about you?" It's the same old, same old. Although I was wondering about something and I thought I'd ask you about it. Yeah, of course. Is everything okay? Yes. I was just thinking that we haven't met in a long time and I was wondering if I could just swing by your place one day. Yes, of course, Mom. How about this Sunday? Yes, that works. But shouldn't you maybe check with Riley if that's okay? Lord knows I hated it when your dad made plans without asking me about it. I know Riley would be really happy to have you over. Don't worry, Mom. All right, then I'll be there around 5 o'clock. That works. See you soon. Take care. Even though I was going to Jack's place with ulterior motives, I was actually still excited to go spend time with my son. Considering I never really saw the rest of my family until the holiday season, it felt nice to have one of my children staying in the same town. I tried my best to not intrude because they were living their own lives. The weekend came by pretty quickly. I got ready pretty early on and figured that I should take something over to their place. I went to the grocery store and picked up a nice bottle of wine, and I bought a couple of books for Jason because I knew he loved to read. When I got to my son's house, I was greeted warmly by all three of them. Jason looked at me with so much relief that I got concerned again. He hadn't tried to contact me after that first phone call, so I had no way of knowing what he was going to say when he hung up. I spent the next couple of hours just talking to Jack and Riley. We had dinner and drank wine. At some point, Jason went to his room because we were talking about adult things that I bet weren't of interest to him, so I excused myself to go talk to Jason. Riley did try to subtly stop me, but I insisted because I had visited them after a long while, and I didn't think it was right to not spend time with my grandson. Jack stopped Riley from saying whatever he wanted to and told me to go talk to Jason. Once I got to his room, I shut the door behind me. I walked over to him and handed him the books I had gotten him. We talked for a while about the books, a conversation that he had started. He seemed really excited about them, so I let him ramble on about them. I didn't try to bring up what he had mentioned because I wanted him to do it. We moved on to talking about other things like what was going on in our lives. At some point, while he was talking to me about his school and other things, he grabbed one of his notebooks and began to write something in it. He showed it to me and it said, "Mom's listening. Can't talk about anything." I couldn't tell if he was being serious or just paranoid, but I went along with it. We continued our conversation while I wrote my plan in the notebook. I told him that I had brought along a hidden camera with me and asked if I could plant it in his room. He seemed ecstatic and agreed instantly. I shuffled around the room and found a good spot to keep the camera that gave me a good view of the room. I started the recording and checked my phone to make sure that the camera worked. I sat with Jason a little longer until I told him that it was getting late and that I should get going. I did leave my scarf behind so I would have an excuse to come back whenever I needed to. I remember hearing footsteps hurriedly shuffling away from the door after I said that, and it made me wonder if Jason truly was right. I didn't pay much mind to it at that time, and I hugged Jason goodbye. I went back downstairs and said my goodbyes to both Jack and Riley, and then made my way back home. I was pretty exhausted from the night, but I did check the camera when I got back home. I stayed up for an hour to read and kept an eye on the footage just in case something happened. All that had happened was my son walked into Jason's room and asked him what we had talked about. Jason told him about it, and that was that. I fell asleep eventually, and when I woke up the next morning, I didn't check the cameras. I rushed to work, and I only checked the camera when I knew Jason would have been back from school. Once again, nothing much happened, and I was beginning to think that Jason really was lying. I decided to give it just another day, and if I didn't find anything, I would go over when neither Jack or Riley were home, and I'd ask Jason to give me the camera back. But that night, as I kept an eye on the footage while I read, I found out what Jason was trying to tell me. I watched Riley enter the room with a stick in her hand, with Jack trailing behind her. I immediately unmuted the video. I heard Riley ask Jason what he did that entire day. She made him narrate it to her in extreme detail. Whenever he stuttered, she would sharply ask him if he was lying, and if she felt like he was, she had him put his palms out and would deliver 2 to 3 swift raps against his knuckles. I watched in growing horror as the number of times she kept hitting him got more and more frequent. Jason was sobbing and Jack just stood there and watched. I was disappointed and disgusted with what I was watching. I had raised all my kids in a very gentle manner. I barely even yelled at them because I believe that kids are smarter than we think. While we may not be able to reason with them, they are capable of understanding when you explain things to them. I didn't understand why Jack was just standing there and letting his son get hit for something so unnecessary. I wanted to rush over to their place and stop them. But what would I have said to them? They would have found it odd that I happened to be back just a day after I was already there. I remembered that I had left my scarf there, but I knew that I could have used that excuse in that moment because I needed that as an excuse to meet with Jason. But I could do one thing. I picked up my phone and called Jack. "Hey, Mom, is everything okay?" "Yes, no worries. I hope I'm not disturbing you." No, Riley and I were just saying goodnight to Jason." "Ah, all right then. I just wanted to tell you that I think I left my scarf in Jason's room last night. I remember setting it down there, and then like a klutz, I forgot it there. Do you think I could swing by tomorrow and pick it up?" "Why don't I just come over and drop it off for you right now?" "No, I'm way too tired and I'm going to fall asleep before you even get here. I had a long day at work and I'm barely even holding up the phone right now." "All right then, why don't you swing by in the evening?" "I can't do that. I'm meeting up with a couple of my friends for game night tomorrow." "Well, Riley and I won't be back till evening. Why don't you swing by the day after?" "I need that scarf for tomorrow. We're having a themed get-together of sorts." "Well, you could swing by in the afternoon. Jason will be home." "Oh, lovely. I'll be there around 2. Good night, Mom." My heart raced as I came up with lies on the spot. At least my call distracted Jack and Riley enough for them to discuss whatever I had said to Jack instead of focusing on hitting Jason. But before they left Jason's room, Riley declared that Jason would not be getting any dinner or any other meals until dinner the next day. I was appalled. I wished I didn't believe that Riley and Jack would follow through, but from what I saw, I knew that wouldn't be the case. The next day, I took off from work and mentally prepared myself for the conversation that I was going to have with Jason. I was sure that he would not want to continue living there, but I still needed to hear him say that. Before I went over to Jack's place, I made sure to pick up some food for the both of us. When I got there, Jason looked like he was about to faint at any minute. He looked weak, and he was very lethargic. Riley really did make him not eat anything. I quickly gave him his food and watched as he devoured it. I felt so sorry for him, and I knew that I wanted to make things better for him. When he was done eating, I spoke to him. "Did you see everything that happened?" "Yes, darling, and I'm so sorry for laughing at you earlier. I had no idea." "No, it's okay. I know Mom seems like the nicest person, but has she always been this way?" "The beating only started recently, but the starving has been going on for a while. And I just need to get a clearer understanding. So could you tell me why Jack isn't doing anything?" "He's too scared of Mom. He just follows her everywhere and listens to everything she says. Everything she wants, she gets." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry that you've been dealing with this for a while. But I am curious. Why didn't you eat anything at school? Mom didn't send me to school. On days that she doesn't let me eat, I stay home. Mom measures how much of each food is there in the house, and if it's even 1 gram off, when she gets back, I get punished more. So she's starving you and jeopardizing your education? I'm definitely going to do my best to help you out, okay? I need you to tell me right now if you would like to come live with me. I'll take care of everything you need and I'll keep you away from Mom and Dad. Of course, Grandma. Anywhere away from here will be great. I promise to only be good. Just please, take me away from here. I promise I will, darling. But it will take some time. Do you think you can handle staying here for a little while longer? Yeah, I can. I've been living here for 12 years, so I can wait a little more. I carefully took away all the wrappers and made sure to leave no trace of any food there. I didn't want Riley to make things worse for Jason. I then helped Jason clean up any crumbs and then checked and double-checked to make sure we left the place exactly as it had been. I went back home and made sure to call Jack to let him know that I had gotten my scarf back and thanked him for being cooperative. Next, I contacted a good friend of mine who worked with family law. I explained my situation to him and he told me that it would be hard and long to fight for custody of Jason. He also informed me that while I may be able to get custody, the judge may only give me a temporary one, and in that time, Riley could easily change up her behavior and get back her custody of Jason. I knew that getting her to court and trying to fight for custody was definitely not going to work in my favor, especially with what little evidence I had. But I did know one thing. I could use the evidence I did have to get her to make me Jason's legal guardian. You see, Riley worked as a counselor at one of the many middle schools in our district. I was sure that she wouldn't want her abusing her child to reach anywhere and take away her current job and future job prospects. I kept careful watch over the footage the next few days as I gathered all my evidence and sorted the paperwork for a transfer of guardianship. I waited until it was the weekend to go over to Jack's without any notice. When Jack opened the door, he seemed surprised to see me there. Mom, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you and Riley. I don't think now's a good time. Why? What's going on? Just family stuff. Hold on. How come you're suddenly over so frequently? Can't I visit my son? I didn't think I needed to have any special permission to do that. No, I didn't mean it like that. It's just that you've taken a sudden interest in us this week, and it's weird because you rarely ever dropped by before. It isn't really weird. I only came over today because I have something seriously important that I need to talk about with the two of you. I don't think... What's that sound? I knew that Riley was doing something to Jason because of how evasive Jack was being. But when I heard what sounded like loud crying coming from Jason's room, I pushed Jack aside and walked into the house. There was no way I was not going to protect him when I was standing right there. I ran, well, more like speed walking considering I'm not very young, to Jason's room and burst the door open, only to see Jason sobbing as he clutched his face. Riley was breathing hard as she looked at him with so much malice that I shivered. I ran over to Jason and asked him if he was all right. He just hugged me tight and wailed into my ears. Riley humphed and walked away. When Jason calmed down, I took a good look at him and noticed that his cheek was red and swelling up. His knuckles were bleeding and there were welts on his arms, all from the stick. I felt a kind of rage in me that I had never felt before. What kind of a monster do you have to be to hit a child so hard? Nothing the child did deserved that level of treatment in any case. I went downstairs to the kitchen and grabbed a bag of frozen veggies and went back upstairs to give it to Jason so he could use it to help reduce the swelling in his cheeks. Once I had made sure that he was okay, I told him that I would be taking him to my place that day and asked him to pack as many of his things as he could. With that, I walked back down to talk to both of them. Riley looked mad and Jack looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there. "How dare you just barge into our home that way?" "Isn't it a good thing that I did? You are hitting your child, for crying out loud. What I do in my family is none of your business. Your child is my grandson, and he is a part of my family too. You're hurting him, and I can't let that go on. He may be your grandson, but you don't live with him. You don't know what a brat he is. I'm just disciplining him." "Who cares if he's a brat? He's a child, and there are so many other ways to go about disciplining a child other than hitting them. I mean, you, of all people, should know this. Listen, I don't believe in any of that gentle parenting crap. Leave me and my family alone. You got it?" "I'm afraid I can't do that." "What do you mean?" I handed Riley the papers that she needed to sign to transfer guardianship rights to me. Both she and Jack stared at the paper for a long minute before looking at me in utter confusion. I explained to both of them that they both had to sign the papers or I would be releasing the proof I had of them hitting Jason. "What do you mean by proof?" "I set up a hidden camera in Jason's room last week and I have all the proof I need. Neither of your jobs will appreciate what you guys do, especially yours, Riley. If you want to have any income at all, I suggest that you sign the papers." "You were spying on us? That's a gross violation of our privacy." "Don't get me wrong, but I was only acting on information that I had. I needed to make sure Jason was doing all right." "Mom, don't do this to us. Give us another chance. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." "I don't want to hear any of it. I'm very disappointed in you, Jack. I raised you to be better than this. You're just as disgusting as Riley, as if not more. I'm taking Jason with me and I expect the papers to be signed after. If you don't, you know what will happen." I knew that neither of them wanted to play with that kind of risk, so they didn't put up a fight when Jason and I walked out. I took Jason to go get dinner and ice cream, and I tried my best to comfort him. I provided him with a safe space to share his feelings and to just exist without the fear of one tiny action causing havoc. In the weeks that followed, I was granted legal guardianship of Jason. Riley and Jack cited that they planned to move to a different state and didn't want to disrupt Jason's education as a reason for transferring for guardianship. The two of them did end up moving, which proved to be a big sigh of relief for me. Jason is doing much better now and he seems a lot happier. Knowing that he won't ever run into his parents for a long while has brought about a better side to him. He's one of the kindest and sweetest kids I know. He thanks me every day for what I did for him, and I intend to keep my promise to always protect him for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening. Hello, my name's Pedro, and I'm a 32-year-old woman. Today I want to tell you about a life-changing event in my life. But before that, I need to introduce you to my youngest sister, Sunny. I have two other sisters, and while the three of us get along really well, we don't share the same bond with her. Sunny was the golden child that my parents spoiled senselessly. There was never a request of hers that was denied. In the meantime, my sister and I had to fight for what we wanted. That did not create the healthiest dynamic in our family. Sunny was especially rude towards me because I had everything she wanted. Effortless good looks, good grades, and I was able to do any task really well regardless of my experience in it. She essentially made my life hell in every possible way, be it by actually bullying or ruining my relationship with my parents. So it came as no surprise for me to move out as soon as I turned 18. It was in college that I met my now ex-husband Jasper. He was in his third year of university when I was a freshman. I don't exactly remember how we got to talking, but I do remember that when we did, we clicked really well. From then on, we began dating. After I graduated from college, we decided to move in together. Around this time, I opened up to Jasper and told him about my complicated relationship with my sister and the reason why I was not too keen on ever going back home or introducing him to my family. Jasper was supportive and understanding, and I was glad for that. We waited until we both had good, stable jobs before tying the knot. We invited both our families to celebrate with us. I invited mine out of pure obligation, but I hoped really hard that they would not cause any scenes, and thankfully everything went off well. Around a year into our being married, Jasper told me that he wanted to have kids. So I was thinking, yes, I kind of want to have kids with you. Kids as in plural? I mean, yeah. Think of how cute it would be to have a couple of mini versions of us running around her. All I'm thinking about is the financial strain that would put on us and the lack of sleep we'll have. Wait, are you saying that you don't want to have kids? Jasper, I've never wanted to have kids. I grew up in a house full of kids that I practically brought up, one of whom hated me for no reason. I'm terrified of being a parent. But this will be different. This time you'll have me, and you won't be a kid yourself. I promise that I'll be there with you the entire time. I don't, Jasper. It just seems like a lot. Why can't we just enjoy our time together alone? It would be way more fulfilling to see our love culminate into something that actually exists, don't you think? Fine, we can have one kid, but we need to be fully financially stable before that happens. Of course! You've made the right choice. You'll never regret it, I promise. With that, Jasper and I waited another year and a half before starting to try for a child. I got pregnant fairly fast. I still remember the look of absolute joy on Jasper's face when I told him that I was pregnant. It was a wonderful time. But then things started to get a little weird. Jasper was always very controlling about everything, right from what I ate to when I showered. I mean, yes, he took care of me really well, but at the same time, he was unlike the man that I had fallen in love with. He didn't smile or laugh much anymore. Everything felt dull. No matter how many times I tried to talk to Jasper, he just never spoke to me about it. About 3 months into my pregnancy, I became aware of how tight our budget had suddenly gotten. Jasper used to spend money lavishly without any hesitation, and then suddenly he declared a budget, and we had to stick to it. He would get cranky if I asked him to get me certain foods that I was craving because they were going out of budget. Initially, I just thought it was about him being worried that raising a child would be way more expensive than we thought. But then I realized that technically, we had planned way ahead for this. We had done the proper analysis of our financial situations and only started a family when we were both more than financially stable enough. There was literally no need for Jasper to be so uptight about our spending. I remember laying in bed for nights just thinking about Jasper's odd behavior. One particular night while Jasper was away on some weekend business trip, I was stuck with a sudden thought. What if Jasper was spending money somewhere else without telling me? At first, I felt bad for thinking that way about him, but then the more I thought about it, the more his behavior began to make sense. So even though I hated snooping through his things, I logged into his bank account through my phone. As I looked through the transactions, I realized that my hunch was right. He was spending hundreds of dollars somewhere else, And all those times were when he would mysteriously disappear for work purposes. I knew they were not work-related because all these transactions were being made in places in our town. There was one particular transaction that made my heart drop. In fact, this transaction was a repeated one about 3 times a week. It was at this motel not too far from our house. I couldn't think of one good reason for Jasper to visit a motel 3 times a week. I hated the feeling of dread that took over me and the anxiety that filled me. But I knew that I had to get to the bottom of his weird behavior and excessive spending. When Jasper got home from his business trip, I continued behaving as if nothing was wrong. The next time he disappeared, I followed him. I went to the motel and asked the receptionist if a man named Jasper had booked a room. The man was uninterested enough to hand me the logbook. I flipped through the page and found Jasper's name. He had already checked in. I asked the receptionist if I could have a copy of the key card, considering Jasper was my husband. The man gave me a once-over and handed me the key card. My heart raced as I walked through the corridors to Jasper's room. I don't know what I was expecting to see, but what I saw was definitely not that. There, in bed, was my husband and my sister. They did not seem to realize that I was there, and I was so shocked that I physically could not move. Eventually, the shock wore off, and I cleared my throat to let them know that I was there. When they saw me standing there, they rushed to cover themselves up. "Pero, what are you doing here?" "I don't think you should be the one asking questions right now. What are you doing?" "What does it look like, Pero?" "Sonny." "Oh, get over it. You knew that she would find out one day anyway. Who cares that she found out now?" Are you serious right now? How long has this been going on? "A couple of months." By a couple of months, do you mean around the time I got pregnant with your child? "Yeah, honestly, that was a bit of a shocker, but I managed to get Jasper to stop freaking out." "What do you mean by freaking out?" "Jasper, you were the one that wanted this kid." "I know, and I'm sorry." "Sorry will not cut it. And as for you, Sonny, you're dead to me. I never want to see your face ever again." "Listen, there's no need to be so butthurt about this. I get that you're pregnant and your hormones are going crazy, but that's no reason to behave like you have a stick up your butt." "That's enough, Sonny. Honey, I'm so sorry that I did this. Can we still work things out?" "Just leave me alone for a while." I left them there in that room and made my way back to my car. I felt horrible, but I knew that I couldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. When I finally got into my car, I let myself sob. I didn't understand why Jasper would do something like that, especially because he knew about my complicated relationship with Sonny. Sonny's words were supposed to be ineffective, but somehow they hurt even more. The fact that she showed no remorse and thought that I was overreacting because I was pregnant made me feel so angry. A part of me wanted to go back in and lash out at them, but I knew better than to do that. Instead, I made my way over to my best friend Tia's house. When I got there, I collapsed into sobs in Tia's arms. She was obviously alarmed because she had assumed that something went wrong with my pregnancy. But through my sobs, I managed to tell her that it was not related to that, but it was something that was possibly worse for me. She then let me cry for a long while before finally asking me what happened after I calmed down. "What's wrong? What happened?" So I found a bunch of transactions on Jasper's card. that did seem familiar, and they kind of had a routine, as in it was a transaction at the same place 3 days a week. Oh, was it for food? I wish. I got curious and found out that he was making payments at the motel near our place. Oh, no. Please tell me he was just trying to decompress or something. Oh, yeah. He was definitely decompressing with my sister. What? Which one? Please don't tell me it's... Yeah, it's Sonny. That cheating scumbag. Who the hell does he think he is to do something this bad to you, especially when you're pregnant with his child? That was not even the worst of it. Sonny was so rude. She told me I was behaving all crazy because I was pregnant. Can you believe it? I swear to God, I will punch her one day. But oh my God, how are you doing right now? I really don't know. I feel so crappy and so betrayed. I had told Jasper all about my issues with Sonny, and he still went and cheated on me with her. Did he at least apologize or seem apologetic? Yeah, he did apologize. But at the time, I needed space to process what I had walked into. I don't know what to do. I think you should leave him. But I'm way too scared to raise a child all on my own. I need to have someone there with, or I'll go insane. That's fair, but I know for a fact that you will not end up being able to forget him cheating, and that will only make you hate him even more as time goes by. I know, but I just need someone there for the first year. Once I have the hang of it, I will definitely leave him. Well, all right, I'll be standing right behind you no matter what decision you take. Just remember that no matter what happens, I will be here for you and you will not be alone. Thanks, Tia. I really needed that. Tia gave me the space and time to process all my feelings. I was able to figure out what my true decision was, and I decided to stick with the plan I had given Tia. I would stay with Jasper for a year and then leave him. It hurt me to think that I was going to leave the love of my life. But what hurt even more is that the love of my life betrayed me in such a horrible manner. I went back home after 2 days with Tia. When I got there, Jasper was sitting on the couch. I did not acknowledge him, but he did follow me around for a while and kept trying to ensure that I was feeling okay. For a split second, it felt like I had my husband back, but whenever I looked at his face, all I saw were images of him and my sister in the cheap motel bed, and that was an image that was never going to leave my mind. Eventually, we settled into a rhythm. We barely spoke, but there was a silent understanding that we were going to slowly work things out between us, or so I thought. The next 2 months flew by pretty quickly. Jasper had been extra caring about me as I drew closer to my due date. He seemed excited to meet his child, and while I also shared that feeling, I also knew that pretty soon I would have to leave him. What I did not expect was to one day wake up to an empty bed and an empty house. Or at least empty of all Jasper's things. I was shocked and confused. I tried to call him, but he did not pick up. I was then panicking because out of the blue, I was left all alone. I hoped Jasper would return, but by the end of the day, it became clear that he had left me. I called Tia over and she stayed with me while I once again processed all the intense emotions that I was feeling. It did not help that the baby was constantly kicking and ruining my sleep schedule. I was a mess through and through. One day, about a week and a half after Jasper left, Tia exclaimed from the couch and ran over to me, almost falling flat on her face in her shock to tell me what she had found out. "Oh my God, Pedal, you are not going to believe this." Whoa, what's going on? I was just scrolling through Facebook and I happened to come across this post by Sonny. Why are you trying to show me a post about Sunny? You know how she's a sensitive topic right now. I know, but this is kind of serious, and I'm actually worried about how you'd react to it, but I figured that it would be better for you to find out about it while I'm here rather than when you're alone. You're scaring me. What is it? Tia then turned her phone towards me, and there was a picture of Sunny and Jasper kissing. Sunny was dressed in an elegant wedding gown while Jasper was wearing a tux. Sunny captioned the post, "Can't wait to spend forever with my forever." I felt the bile rise up in my throat. How could they? What happened to all of Jasper's care and comfort? Had he been planning to run away and get married to Sunny the entire time that he was taking care of me? Was it just a sick game for him to raise my expectations and then shatter them in the same way over and over again? I don't know how, but I managed to get myself together during the next 2 weeks. Tia was my biggest source of comfort. She helped me with everything, whether it was a physical need or an emotional one. Before I knew it, it was time for me to give birth. I gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby girl. The moment I held her in my arms, I forgot all about the other pains I had. Nothing made me happier than her. We took our time settling into a new routine with the baby. Tia moved into my place because it was a house and the house was better than an apartment. Together, we battled endless sleepless nights and busy work-filled mornings. Tia was once again a strong shoulder to cry on. Of course, I was still very upset with Jasper and Sunny, but I knew that there was nothing I could do. Tia helped me file for divorce from Jasper, and doing that itself reopened all my wounds. But once again, through sheer willpower and support from Tia, I managed to overcome everything. The years, 7 years to be exact, passed by in the blink of an eye. I got to watch all of my baby girl's firsts, her first rollover, her first laugh, her first steps, her first words, and her first day at school. And with every first I witnessed, I felt myself heal a little more. My daughter was growing into a smart and kind kid who had this infectious smile, and I loved it. I had almost entirely forgotten about Jasper until one day I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? Hey, Pedro, it's Melody, Jasper's mother. Oh, hi, Melody. Is everything okay? Not really. I needed to talk to you about something, and I just managed to find your number. What is it? For the past 7 years, I haven't seen Jasper in person. He told me he had a child and constantly sent me pictures, but for some reason, he never sent me any pictures of you. And I only found out about it a couple of weeks ago. So, he didn't tell you that he cheated on me with my sister when I was 5 months pregnant? That was your sister? Yeah, she's a piece of work too. Look, I just want you to know that I'm on your side all the way. I called to ask if you'd be down to get some revenge. Thanks a lot, but revenge? Why do you want to get revenge on him? I don't necessarily want to get any revenge on him, but I want to help you out. I'm sure these past few years have not been the greatest for you, and I just know that giving Jasper at least an ounce of his own medicine will make you feel better. It has been a really long time, but I'll never not be down to teach Jasper a lesson. Count me in. Great. I've booked my tickets and I'll be arriving there tomorrow morning. Get ready to have a lot of fun. I didn't know how she had so much confidence in me saying yes to her plan because she already had her ticket booked, which honestly made me feel kind of nice. At the same time, learning that he had a child with my sister made me feel icky. It was a wonder that he lasted with her when he left me right around when I was pregnant. True to her word, Melody was there in the morning and we immediately began brainstorming how to go about getting our revenge. Melody told me that she came to town earlier because of me. Turned out that Jasper had invited her to celebrate his birthday since she knew the truth. Apparently, this was going to be a big celebration considering he also got a huge promotion, so he had invited people from work and his regular friends to attend. That explained her pre-booked tickets. So we planned out our revenge of humiliation for that day. On the day of his huge birthday party, Melody walked into Jasper's house, which was honestly fancy, and it made me even angrier. I walked behind Melody so Jasper didn't see me at first. He warmly greeted his mother before finally seeing me and turning pale. That reaction itself was satisfying for me. Melody saw his reaction too and innocently told him that she had run into me at the grocery store today and invited me over. Jasper tried to say something, but Melody quickly shut it down by claiming that I was family, so I deserved to be there. At some point, Sunny noticed me too, and her face turned into this scowl. I watched her pull Jasper to her side and ask him what I was doing there, and he just shrugged in response while looking at his mother. Eventually, Melody got everyone's attention and told them that she had something to say as Jasper's mother. Jasper looked nervous, but let her go on because everyone looked at her intently. She began to speak about how she struggled to raise Jasper as a single mom, and that she's glad to see where her son has reached in his career. I watched Jasper's shoulders relax because he thought that Melody was saying only nice things, until she wasn't. She began to talk about how he had let her down by cheating on me with my sister while I was heavily pregnant with his child. Of course, this got everyone whispering between themselves. Jasper's face paled while Sunny looked furious. To my surprise, someone else spoke up. That person was Jasper's boss. He asked Jasper if it was true, and I stepped in and said that it was. His boss told everyone about how much family and ethics mattered to him and the image of the company. He said he couldn't risk this coming out and ruining the company, so Jasper was going to be let go of. I was shocked. That was not what I was expecting to happen, yet it was satisfying to see Jasper's world come crashing down. Melody clinked her glass against Jasper's bosses and winked at him. She was just as happy with that decision. At that point, the atmosphere in the room got awkward and people started filing out. Once everyone left, Jasper and Sunny approached me. "You just had to show up, didn't you? Our lives were so much better when you weren't in it." "You will not speak to her that way. You guys deserve what you get and so much more. This is not how I raised you, Jasper. I am your son. How could you do this to me? It's because you're my son that I even went this far. Although I no longer consider you my son, you've been disowned. When I die, Petal and her child will get everything I own. That's not fair. You took away his job and now his inheritance too? How heartless are you? You have no right to say anything. Stay out of it. Our work here is done. Goodbye, you two." And with that, we made our exit. It felt amazing to get revenge on them. I was so grateful that Melody was on my side because I would never have gotten to feel so good. Yeah, I did manage to get over the hurt of Jasper and Sunny's actions, but to see them destroyed brought me actual joy. From what I know, Sunny took their child and left Jasper behind. Serves him right, if you ask me. I stopped checking in on them after that because I felt like that was enough revenge for me. In the meanwhile, Tia and I found a bigger and better apartment to move into with my daughter. Melody and I have much more regular contact and we fly out to meet each other pretty often. Life is finally looking a lot more colorful than before, and I can't wait to see what comes next.